That way he doesn't regress too much. Otherwise, he could, like, it's just like a kid when you have a little baby.
Yep.
The other one regresses. Stand up. That's a pain in the butt that was.
Really?
If you're here for items 13 and 14, Agritopia's Epicenter, it is being continued to November 6th Planning Commission hearing. You do not need to stay for this hearing. It will not be heard. Thank you.
No, I'll stay here. It's right here, so it's ready to go for you.
Well, that's Eric's.
PowerPoint presentations on top, and then right here, Great Hearts is yours. Are you up next?
Oh, wait. Mine is... Oh, okay. Yeah, mine. I'm going to just move these up. So I know these are probably the ones that I'm going to use. You know? Yeah.
You can move Central Christian all the way down because we're done with that one.
Move it down.
That up.
Yeah.
So you just want to double check that folder, make sure everything's in there that you need.
Oh, this?
Mm-hmm.
Wait, no. This is Eric's?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Nice, dude. Nice job. Well done.
I'll be here.
I'll be here. Ever vigilant. Glad you're here, bud.
Yes.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the Planning Commission meeting of October 2nd, 2013. Call to order the regular meeting. Can I get a roll call, please?
Chairman Jennifer Whitman.
Here.
Vice Chairman Joshua Ayler.
Here.
Commissioner Anthony Bianchi. Commissioner David Cavaney. Commissioner Chad Fuller.
Here.
Commissioner Bridget Peterson.
Here.
Commissioner Christopher Sipple.
Present.
Alternate Kyle Paul.
Here.
Thank you. Can I get an approval of the agenda, Vice Chairman?
Do you have it straight?
We have a few changes to the agenda, so hopefully you all have one in front of you and can follow along.
Okay. We're looking, moving to the consent agenda items number 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and
16.
Oh,
And just to clarify, 16.
right, and items 13 and 14 are being continued, and that's why they're being moved on to consent.
And so is 9. Yeah.
And so is 9.
Great. Do I have a second? Okay, I have a motion by Vice Chairman Ayler, second by Commissioner Peterson. All those in favor?
Commission, can I
Yes.
please have a continued date certain, please?
November 2nd or November 6th? Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're just making the motion on moving the agenda items to the consent
Approval of
calendar.
the agenda,
Correct.
yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Just want to make sure we're on the same page.
That's okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to agenda item number 5, which is communications from citizens. At this time, members of the public may comment on matters not on the agenda. The Commission's response is limited to responding to criticism, asking staff to review a matter commented upon, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. Is there anybody here wishing to speak under those pretenses? Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move on to the public hearing consent portion of the agenda. Consent public hearing items will be heard at one public hearing. After the consent public hearing, these items may be approved by a single motion. At the request of a member of the commissioner's staff, an item may be removed from consent calendar and may be heard and acted upon separately. Other items on the agenda may be added to the consent public hearing and approved under a single motion. At this time, we have agenda item number 6, which is S13-06. It's a preliminary plat, an open space plan for Fulton Homes at Cooley Station. Agenda item number 7, which is UP 13-12. It's a Sprint conditional use permit for a wireless communication facility. And agenda item number 8, it's UP 13-14. It's Gilbert Assisted Living and Memory Care Facility. Agenda item number 9, Z13-12, and that's a continuance to November 6th. Agenda item number 10, which is the Lakeview Trails at Morrison Ranch General Plan Amendment. Agenda item number 11, which is the companion zoning case. Agenda item number 12, which is the preliminary plat for White Fence Estates, S13-05 is the case number. Agenda item 13, GP 13-16, which is the epicenter. It's a continuance to the November 6th Planning Commission meeting. The companion zoning case, Z 13-27, which is agenda item number 14, as well as agenda item number 16, which is Z 13-24, amend ordinances number 1527 and 1664 for the medical campus planned generally located at the northeast corner of Val Vista Drive and Mercy Road. With that, do I have any comment? Do I have a proposed motion?
Did you, yeah.
Open the public hearing?
Yeah, open.
Sorry, open the public hearing.
I don't think you have any cards, do
Do
you?
you need to recuse yourself?
I will when you close
Okay.
it, bring it back. Yeah.
All right. I don't have any cards to speak on any of these matters, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the dais.
Chairman, I would request that we do 2 separate motions, if it's okay, on the consent calendar. One for all the consent items except items number 10 and 11, and then a separate one for 10 and 11. I'm going to recuse myself from 10 and 11, as I'm told that my company is interested in purchasing lots or a parcel or 2 of property within the Lakeview Trails at Morrison Ranch piece. So I would just request that we do so let me try and make this simpler. One motion for consent items number 9, 12, 13, 14, and 16, and then another one for 10 and 11. I'm getting the nod that works from Phyllis. So.
I'll make a motion
Okay.
on your first, I'll second the first set that you are, that was a motion, wasn't it?
You know what? I'll make
a
the motion.
recommendation?
In a motion of the first set that you want to vote on.
Yes.
I will second that.
You got it. All right. So I move that we approve consent items number, well, I just said them, so I better not get them wrong.
9,
9.
12, 13, 14, and 16.
Do I have,
Second.
okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Fuller, a second by Commissioner Peterson. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Bridget, do you want to take a stab at the second motion since he's recusing himself? 10 and 11.
So I will go ahead and make a motion to approve consent items number 10 and 11.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Peterson. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Vice Chairman Ayler. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. There's a
And I
question
abstained from that for the
Record.
record, Margot.
with one abstention. Yeah.
Yeah, one abstention.
Chair, if we can just clarify if items number 7 and 8 were also included in that consent agenda?
Oh, you know what? I might not
6,
have
7, and 8. If you could just
Yes.
clarify that. If not, please.
I did not include those in the numbers so I will now make a motion because I'm the one that missed that. Thank you.
Third time's a
Linda.
charm.
Thank you. I move that we approve consent items number 7 and 8.
6, 7, and 8.
Gosh darn it.
Modified.
I move,
We'll get there.
yeah, I move, thank you. Let me redo my motion. I move that we approve consent items 6, 7, and 8.
I will second that.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Fuller, a second by Commissioner Peterson. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously.
All right.
All right, I think we're back on track now.
Apologize for that.
I know. I just didn't follow along very well. Right. Okay, so now that we've taken care of the consent portion of the agenda, we will try to get to the public hearing non-consent portion accurately. So the non-consent public hearing items will be heard at an individual public hearing and will be acted upon by commission by separate motion. During the public hearings, anyone wishing to speak or to comment in support of or in opposition to a public hearing item may do so. If you wish to comment on a public hearing item, you must fill out a public comment form indicating the item number on which you wish to be heard. Once the hearing is closed, there will be no further public comment unless requested by a member of the commission. So there's some blue slips in the back of the room on the table. If you wish to speak on any item, if you could please fill that out and bring it up to the round table up here. We'll make sure that you get called to the podium. So with that, we are now on agenda item number 15, right? Yes. Okay. Which is UP 13-7 Great Hearts Academy. It's a conditional use permit for approximately 8.9 acres of real property located at the southwest corner of Quinn Avenue and Baseline Road to allow a school, public or private large-scale use in the general commercial zoning district, subject to conditions to limit or address compatibility with adjoining uses related to the site plan, circulation, and traffic impacts. And with that, we'll invite up Mr. Williams.
Thank you.
Did you, did you announce it? Okay, Commissioner Sippel
I think he probably needs to announce it, yeah.
Going to right?
Yeah, go ahead, yeah.
I need to recuse myself from this as I'm a charter school owner in Gilbert.
Great, thank you. All right, sorry about that, Mr. Williams.
Oh, no problem. Thank you, commissioners and Chair Whitman. This is Great Hearts Academy, K-8 or K-12 charter school, located. There we go. At the southwest corner of Quinn and Baseline Roads. As you said, it's 8.9 acres, and it's this piece right here. So, we saw this last month at your study session, and we discussed it a bit. Obviously, the site is zoned general commercial, and in general commercial zoning district, a large-scale charter school or public and private school requires a use permit for approval, which is why we're here today discussing it. Essentially, the site is similar to what you saw last month. It's 4 buildings, about 73,000 square feet in total. I think a total of, about 45 classrooms, 33 of which will be K through 8, and then 9 through 12th grade. I guess a brief overview of the site, although I'll just mention that, as it's a public school, it doesn't have to go to the design review board for approval of, development, criteria, architecture, and so forth. So we're here today, and the use permit is really the only thing that we, the only time we're going to look at it as a town. So that said, the circulation has not really changed much since you saw it last time. The applicant submitted a traffic impact study or impact analysis and circulation plan, which was reviewed by the town engineer, who is of course here tonight. And they've updated that since our study session. However, Eric, the town traffic engineer, can get in kind of those details. I'll briefly touch on some of the areas that are of issue for us as staff. I guess a brief overview is that they've provided a little more detail on these circulation maps, which we didn't have last time. There's one for the Archway, which is K through 5 students. They are from 7:30. They start their drop off at 7:30, and you can see that they come through the site from the west, circle through around this open space retention area, which is also a ball field, and circulate through, and then drop off on the northwestern portion of the site or the buildings, essentially kind of where they started. The preparatory is, I believe it's, let's see, 6 through 12. So, and they start at 8, so there's a half an hour stagger there, just to clarify. And it enters the same way. There's double stacking and drop off on the northeastern side. Some of the points of concern are, here's a little bit more of a clear aerial. So you have 2 access points to the site that are the one on the west, the westerly, northwestern part that's full motion right now, and it's shared between the rest of the center, the rest of general commercial, and then you have a right in, right out here that is only going to be used for this site. Essentially, the the conditional use permit requires 4 findings of fact to be approved. The major point of that is obviously going to be traffic, access, circulation, and so forth. And those kind of components of that are an issue I'll kind of get into a little bit. And again, Eric can get into those in a little more detail. Essentially, some of the concerns that staff has is that the main access point from the northwest here is the only place that a left turn can occur. And the concern for the town is that that outbound left turn movement is essentially going to create a level of service of F for exiting the site. That's the biggest concern for the town in terms of traffic, is exiting the site, not even as much entering the site or stacking. They've done a lot better job of stacking vehicles on the site, but it's the exiting of the site at those peak hours of the day that is the major concern of the town traffic engineer. The applicant got with us yesterday, submitted a revised traffic impact analysis yesterday afternoon, which the town traffic engineer has initially looked at. Essentially, the site design hasn't really changed. The only thing that's changed is that they are now proposing to utilize a cross-access agreement with the remainder of this whole center to exit vehicles out here onto Greenfield. Again, the traffic engineer can comment on that, but from my understanding, is it still doesn't quite doesn't meet with approval with the town traffic engineer, I guess is the easiest way for me to say it. So he can get into why that is, but essentially that's still a concern for the town. Another issue is that when you force folks to turn right out of this site, that's going to create issues on other sites, like essentially creating U-turn movements, potentially vehicles coming in through the residential neighborhoods or adjacent commercial and industrial, and so on and so forth. So staff is concerned about the impacts of what that'll create for surrounding property owners. We don't want to, again, of the 4 findings of fact, one of which is not negatively impacting surrounding property owners, and it's a major concern for the town that this site with the that number of vehicles and so forth, with students that are generated from that number of students, is going to create some negative impacts on a number of surrounding properties. So those are kind of some of the main issues, I guess. But if I could leave with you that the exiting of the cars at the peak hours is of the most concern to the town. Lastly, I would talk about parking a little bit more. Staff's concerned with the parking a bit. The high school parking is indicated here. They've made that change and indicated where they would have parking for the high school students. Obviously, students drive 10 through 12, and the applicant indicates that it's a privileged type situation, and only 32 students are able to park on site on a grade level and a first come first served basis. However, staff's still a bit concerned. Parking requirements for high school is 7 spaces per classroom, which is 84 parking spaces for this particular site. And although they might not be utilizing 84 in the way they have conduct their business, staff is a bit concerned with students parking on neighboring properties and so on. So those are some of the issues with the access, circulation, and traffic and parking on the site. Essentially, you can see in your report that we have recommended approval with an approved traffic impact analysis. However, that was kind of under the assumption that we'd be able to, through the course of time, as you know, this is constantly a fluid process here. We would have something that the town traffic engineer could work approval towards, but unfortunately at this time, it's just not enough for the town traffic engineer to be able to support the traffic impact analysis or the circulation plan. And I think it's somewhat of a gap there currently as the site is designed. So I just want to leave that with you, that there is a recommendation for approval with a traffic impact analysis approved by the town traffic engineer, but it's not extremely close at this time, and we want to make sure that as a commission, you're aware of that and that those core issues that I identified and that Eric will identify are addressed somehow, whether now or at a future hearing. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Is there any questions for staff? Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Nathan. I appreciate your presentation, but I didn't hear anything about the quality of the project or the candidate or what they're proposing. And but you did make the comment that you'd make the recommendation that it go forward if they could work out the traffic. So I can only assume then that you support the product.
Commissioner Powell, we do support the project. We support schools in all zoning districts, essentially. I mean, they're allowed. But we're not able to look at things like architecture or some of those more development criteria that we look at it as design review level. We look at it as, does it meet the findings of fact, which are, is it well designed? Does it provide for the, safety to the community and surrounding neighbors? Is it a well-designed site? Is it, I guess, does it work with this site and with the neighbors? I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at from a approval standpoint at this hearing is, does this project, what they have proposed, number of buildings, location of buildings, access, circulation, stacking, buffering to the neighbors, does that work? Theoretically, it does. As a planner, we're content with the way the buildings are laid out towards the street and that they buffer the residential properties to the south. But what I was mentioning during my presentation and now is that the core issue is that it doesn't meet the findings on is safe access and circulation, getting vehicles, in and out of that site with that number of students, 1,150 students on 8.9 acres and 73,000 square feet of space and 45 classrooms. So, those are the core issues that, I wanted to touch on in my presentation. And at this time, staff isn't supportive of it because it just doesn't meet those criteria of the town traffic engineer.
Well, I've known the town to go to great lengths to assist other projects because they saw the value in the project. And what I would like to hope is that the town would extend the same courtesy to everyone. So if it's a valuable project and it could bring a wonderful influence into our community, I would hope that the town would try to find a solution to make this work. I'm sure that can be done.
I think that the town is, and this is just the process. I don't want to interject and talk over you, but this is the process that every applicant has to go through. And right now, there's just a hurdle that they're trying to overcome. And I don't necessarily see, and I don't know that it's up for us to discuss, but I don't necessarily see the town favoring any applicant over another.
Well, it's just that it just seemed a little one-sided. I just wanted to make sure that we bring out the whole picture.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions for staff? Commissioner, Vice Chairman Ayler? Sorry.
Is traffic coming up next, or because it's more of a traffic question?
Commissioner Ayler, you could have the applicant next or the traffic engineer next, whatever you prefer.
Okay, yeah, let's have the applicant first. Okay.
Well, are we finished with all comments for staff first?
At this.
Before we, okay. You're good? Okay. Thank you, Nathan. Go ahead and invite the applicant up. You can give your name and city of residence for the record, which I believe is Gilbert now, right?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. It is. For your record, my name is Stephen Earl, and my town of residence is Gilbert. I'm here tonight on behalf of Great Hearts. Obviously, you heard staff say that the key issue, the core issue, is traffic circulation. We believe we have a very good story to tell you, which is based on the culture and experience of Great Hearts, because we know the town has had some poor experiences with charter schools. Charter schools that locate in a strip center, in a facility that's not designed as a school, was not built as a school from ground up, or that do not know how to control both the ingress and egress and queuing on site. And we know that recently you've had some charter schools that backed traffic up onto arterial roads because they were not providing proper queuing on the site. So before I get into the details of the of how to best address the concerns on the core issue of circulation, I'd like to introduce you to the CEO of Great Hearts, whose name is Dan Scroggins, and he will give you kind of a little bit of the culture, because in order to understand how we're going to control traffic, you need to understand not only our experience, 17 facilities, 8,000 students. We've dealt with this issue over and over and over again. We know how to do this. And so when we tell you that we can accomplish what we're going to tell you later, you can believe in us. It doesn't mean that you can believe in every school that comes before you, but we know how to do this. So let me introduce you to Dr. Dan and let him describe a little bit of the culture, and then I'll come back. If that's okay, Madam Chairman.
Absolutely. I think you give your name and residence for the record.
Daniel Scoggin. I'm the CEO of Great Hearts Academies, and I live in Morrison Ranch here in Gilbert. And I'm just really, thank you just for briefly describe Great Hearts Academies. We have the schools across the valley, and just a couple data points, then I'll briefly describe our culture. So 5 out of the top 10 public schools in Arizona, all of Arizona, based on SAT scores, College Board scores, are Great Hearts Academies. And the site here will be part of that family of schools. A world-class public school education where 100% of the students go to 4-year colleges and universities, and a full liberal arts program, from drama to great literature to athletics, advanced math and science, K-12. Long wait list to come into the schools, and these are Gilbert families that want this school, a world-class college prep school. Our schools are highly structured. We have a 10-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio. The students are highly supervised. They wear uniforms, ties, very regulated throughout the day. It's a closed campus, so once the students are on the campus, they may not leave. That includes the high school students, of course. And we have a strong history of traffic throughout, control and patterns throughout the valley with all the schools that we have. For instance, our staff are outside monitoring traffic. All the families sign an honor code and also a contract with the school to follow the family handbook, which includes the traffic plan. These are families that do what we say because they want our program and to come into this structured community. So I assure you there will be no backing up onto the streets. The families will be highly regulated and following the traffic pattern, highly staggered and controlled. So I ask for your support in bringing a world-class college prep school, public college prep school to Gilbert. Thank you.
Thank you. If you want to hold on for just 1 second, are there any questions for Mr. Scroggins? I think I have one question. Your other locations, are your other locations located anywhere near any other public schools or charter schools? Because I know that there's another school located in close proximity to this one, and I just wondered if there's another location that you currently operate that is similarly located.
Yeah, we have Chandler Preparatory Academy at Warner and Alma School on a 10-acre site. It's on the southeast corner of Warner and Alma School, and there's 11 schools within 0.3 miles to that, some charter, some public. And then if you're familiar with our headquarters school, Veritas Preparatory Academy at 56th Street and Indian School, there are 2 public schools on the same street within half a mile. So we're used to being close to other schools. We certainly collaborate with our fellow public educators in coordinating our traffic. And I would love to have you at one of our schools to see how mechanically and precisely our traffic pattern works. It's very important. We are part of the community. Our families will be from the communities that you are stewarding here. So this is part of what we do, is being part of the public infrastructure.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Okay, Mr. Earl.
Thank you, Dr. Scroggins. With that as a backdrop, let me then operate this Elmo. If someone can turn that on. Help me, Nathan. Madam Chair and members of the Commission, this is a close-up aerial that shows the site that was once proposed for a kind of a general use office complex. And so that's why you see some what appear to be pads on it. It has 2 access points already built into the site. One is a joint access driveway on the west side, and one is a access point in the middle. To the east of the property is a current street called Quinn that goes into the neighborhood to the south. We do not have access to Quinn. The neighborhood actually owns the property on the west side of Quinn, so we access only to Baseline Road and to Greenfield. The arrow on this exhibit shows the reciprocal access agreement we have with the property owners to the west, and there's also a driveway behind the Chase Bank. There's actually a driveway behind the auto facility as well, but they tend to use that for storage of vehicles. So the logical route for people to get out to Greenfield to go north or to get out to Greenfield to go west on Baseline is to probably take this access point. And then we have another access point here, which we've talked about with staff, where because we're going to have 5 to 7 faculty members on site during all peak hour movements, both to help children get in to the school and have parents leave, we can have people stationed at this location to make sure that when there is an opportunity with a break in traffic to make a left out, they can do that. Otherwise, they can direct them and meter the people who go west so that you don't have a big lineup going through the shopping center in order to come out here. Now, we've been told that making a left out at Greenfield may be difficult because of the adjacent public school. So we can tell our parents that if they want to make that kind of left to go south, they're really better off making 3 rights by going right to Recker, right down to Guadalupe and back. Now, I guess part of the concern that staff has indicated in the past, and let me just put this down, has been that people will leave this facility and make U-turns and go west in order to go north on Greenfield or to go west on Baseline Road. And we wanted to make it clear that we will control all of the impact of our development on our own site. So if there's a delay that gets past service level D, it will be our own parents leaving the site. And they'll be signing a contract that obligates them to go in their routing pattern where we ask them to go. They're obviously staggered between elementary that will be there, and then when they clear, then the high school parents are bringing their children. We have a lot of children who come in ride-sharing situations because we actually pass out to the parents where everyone lives so they can group together and bring their children at one time rather than having all parents have to bring children. That helps a lot on the reduction of traffic movements. But you can see here that the concern that we will have a great number of cars turning left out of our joint access way is simply not correct. We know that it's a normal fear of traffic engineers that if you have a place where people can turn left, they will. Or they will try and make left-hand turns that are unsafe, or they will make a right-hand turn only to make a left U-turn. And our position is that because we have a great deal of experience with many schools, we've been able to confirm that our parents do as we ask. They actually form patterns of exiting the site. So let's talk about AM and PM. As far as we know, PM is really not an issue because our PM is not the normal PM peak of 4 to 6. It's really at 3 o'clock. So that generally is not a significant problem, either coming to the site or leaving. AM is during the normal AM peak because we have children coming between 7:30 and 8, and then 8:30 to 9, and 8 to 9. So we're in that general peak. But again, coming to the site doesn't seem to be the problem. We have capacity to bring people to the site. It's leaving the site in the morning. That appears to be the challenge of where they're going to leave the site. Initially, we weren't sure we had the ability to have a joint access out across the properties to the west of us to Greenfield. Now we know that we do. So we have that as an opportunity, but if we have someone stationed right here we have all this stacking that people can wait until there's an appropriate time to turn left. So the point I want to make is we will not, and I think our traffic report says this, we will not cause any off-site driveway to drop below service level D because of the traffic we're introducing to the situation. There is the possibility that the intersection of Baseline, going back to this aerial, the intersection of Baseline and Greenfield may need to be modified, restriped to have dual lefts. It's our understanding there's current pavement there where we could restripe and then change the signalization to allow more capacity in a left turn movement at Greenfield Road. And we could absorb the cost of that if that is indeed necessary, as our traffic report suggests. But other than that intersection, the only other potentially problematic turn is someone trying to turn left out of Greenfield. And that we can simply tell parents, if you're going south on Greenfield Road, you need instead to go east and make three right-hand turns, or you'll have to wait a great deal of time at that location. So we believe we have the ability on site to make things work. This shows the 2,000 feet of stacking, queuing that we have on site. You can see in the green, we even have double lanes on the bottom. So this is the one for the children that are coming, and this is the one for the high school. So the children are dropped off over here, the high schoolers are dropped off over there, and they come at different times. So we have a great, what this means is that when you have a charter school that does not have this kind of 2,000 feet of queuing on site, they queue on the arterial road, such as occurred recently on Wrecker Road, because there was no ability to contain all the cars on site. And in fact, I drive down 3rd Street south of McDowell Road every day to go home. And there's a charter school on the south side of McDowell at 3rd Street. And they have a very limited amount of on-site queuing, maybe 100 feet, 200 at the most. And so they do back up onto 3rd and onto McDowell Road. We specifically designed this so that everyone could get into the site and not back up onto any arterial, whether it's Greenfield or Baseline. So I think we're dealing only with that AM peak exit. And we think we can control that by having the number of faculty members on site to control and meter out that traffic. Now we've been told, well, what guarantee do we have that you'll have faculty out there doing this? And we've had experience with other charter schools that don't live up to their circulation plan. Well, that's certainly not Great Hearts. That's the reason I thought it was important for Dr. Scroggins to get up here and tell you a little bit about the culture. Because we have a facility at 56th Street over in Phoenix that used to be a Motorola plant. And we have this very same setup there with a number of faculty members that take turns going out and making sure that drop-offs occur normally, that exits occur normally, that they meter the exits, they force people to turn right. They're not allowed to make a U-turn. They have to make rights to get back home. Let me talk a little bit about parking, because that also came up in what Nathan mentioned to you. This is the parking lot. It does have 32 spaces in it. It is for high school students, and it's merit-based. In other words, in order to get a space there, you have to have very high grades. It's an incentive for youngsters to have very high grades. They get one of those 32 spaces. If they don't get one of those 32 spaces, then they have to be driven to school. No one is allowed to park off-site. It's one of the standards in the booklet that's given to students and parents, in which they sign as a contract. So no student is allowed to park in the neighborhood off of Quinn or in the commercial properties to the north or west. And if anyone is found to have an infraction of that rule, there are consequences that could lead to expulsion. So when we say we have a plan to take care of traffic, we do. Now, we're happy to sit down with a traffic engineer and figure out any nuances to what we're proposing here to make sure that it works. and that we're not degrading any off-site intersections from normal service levels, and that we have sufficient queuing on-site to bring our people on-site, and that the delays that occur, if any, are delays we force our people to make in order to leave at a metered rate so as not to negatively impact either our neighbors to the west, our business neighbors, over which we have a reciprocal access agreement, or the neighbors to the north. So I understand the concerns that are typical of this, but I think in this setting, we have legitimate answers. Let me show you one more thing. This is a listing of the permitted uses in general commercial. I cite this only because the ordinance allows charter or public schools on residential property without a use permit. So if we went down the street into a residential zone, which was our second choice, we wouldn't be coming before the commission for a use permit. We'd just be able to do it of right. But that wouldn't have been, quote, right, because it would have introduced a considerable amount of traffic on Wrecker Road into a neighborhood. So instead, we came to the commercial site, which does require a use permit. But these are all the permitted uses that are allowed without a use permit in this district. And you can see that they include ambulance services, colleges, home improvement stores, daycare centers, entertainment and recreation, both indoor and outdoor, hospitals, urgent care, hotels, manufacturing, and even gas stations. We're convinced that those uses could have very intense uses for neighboring properties. Our use is a very quiet use during the day. It does have an issue of traffic morning and afternoon, but we feel we can completely control that on site. So with that as a kind of an overall backdrop, we'd be glad to respond to the questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Earl. Any questions for Mr. Earl? Commissioner Fuller?
Could you just explain to me, if you would, sir, the 30 parking spots again? I just want to confirm that they're not first come, first served, in that there's 30 spots there, and there'll be 30 parking passes passed out, and it's first come, first served in that the first one out of those 30 who gets there gets to choose the spot he or she would like, but it's not like 50 people are going to go there to park. 20 of them are going to be turned away and have to go find alternate parking. Is that an accurate summary, sir?
Yeah, through the chair, Commissioner Fuller, that's exactly correct. If I didn't make that clear, let me just restate it. There'll only be sufficient passes given out to the total number of spaces there, and no other passes will be given out. And the students are signing a contract that they will not park anywhere else to bother any commercial or neighboring properties.
In one follow-up question, not on the parking, but and I've heard it mentioned a couple times, there will be a staffer that will be directing traffic at some location. I just haven't seen that before. Maybe that's typical. I know where my kids go to school, there's not a staffer out directing traffic. Is that really just a staffer wearing a yellow vest or a red vest or some sort of vest just telling people which way to go? How does that work?
There are actually, and we encourage you to go to our facility on 56th Street over in Phoenix, because it is a rehab in the sense that it used to be a Motorola plant, but it has a very large athletic field and has this same kind of stacking that we're showing here, and alternate arrival times for the younger and the older children. And there are 7 faculty members out there every day to guide all this process to make sure that it runs tightly and or in an organized fashion. Part of the reason why people want their children in this school is not only because it's high academics, but it's also very organized, and so they have confidence. And part of that confidence is in showing them how they can get in and out of the site in a controlled fashion, so they don't. It's not a madhouse. You can imagine what impression parents would have about a preparatory academy that states that it has all of its young people go to college, and then it's a mess in the morning and a mess at night. It doesn't leave a good impression. So we require them to sign the contract, and then when when they come to the site, we have faculty members there every day to guide them to the right drop-off, make sure that occurs correctly, and then meter them out of the site. In fact, Bob Mulhern, who is a member of the board, was mentioning to me just today that he dropped off his kids at the 56th facility, and it would be better for him to go left up 56th Street. There was the faculty member with the cones saying you can only turn right. So he turned right, as he was supposed to. And that may be unique to Great Hearts, I'm not sure, but it certainly is something they're not instituting just with this project. They've done it with all their schools. And they have a multi-year history of having successfully metered their students in and out of their facilities to make it work.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Earl. Vice Chairman Mather?
To Commissioner Fuller, just my personal experiences between two different schools that have staff metering the parking and driving, and ones that don't. One where I drop off my kids do, and there's always issues, but it circulates pretty well. And then there's one by my office that doesn't, and they stack out on the streets. They turn left, they turn right, and there's a lot of value that I personally see into the metering with actual staff. I'm not sure, I've actually not visited their site, but between what I've seen with and without, there truly is a lot of value that I personally have seen.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's great that they do it. I don't remember, was that a condition to the use? I mean, they could decide in 2 months that, we don't have the budget for staff anymore, so we're not going to have a staffer do that. So while it's nice that they do it, and that's wonderful, I don't believe that is a condition to the use permit.
But we're certainly willing to make it a condition of the use permit because it's exactly how this program will work. So stipulating us to have on-site faculty monitors of traffic coming in and out of the site, the dropping off of children, and the departure routes, we'll certainly do that. We'll even excuse me. We'll even agree to submit our manual that we provide to the parents, so that you can see exactly what we require our students and our parents to do.
Wow.
Because again, they want their children to go here. There's a waiting list of 1,000 students, so they want to get in and they want to not have their children expelled for violation of policies.
Well, we appreciate that. I mean, I don't need to see the manual, I think, but I know that's something that's why I asked about it. It makes me feel better when you said we have people out there, they know what they're doing, they have a ton of experience in getting people out, making sure, because I think one of the big concerns is traffic. And in kind of the thought I'm getting from the applicant today is, hey, look, we got this covered. We know how to run this. We've run this at a bunch of other sites, and any problems that will be had on the site because of our traffic, we'll deal with on site. It's not going to affect off-site traffic at all. So that would certainly give me a certain level of comfort if we were to. I'm not sure if I think that's something we could add as a condition. I mean, it's kind of an interesting one, but we'll let Phyllis noodle that over the next little bit. We can keep going.
Chairman,
Thank you.
I was just going to ask that. I think we've asked that before. Can we set conditions on a use permit?
Yes.
Of course.
We can?
Not a zoning
we do
case.
all the time, yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
I think hours of operation on drive-throughs and speaker. I mean, we've gotten into speaker box stuff.
It's different than straight zoning cases.
Yeah, it's not a conventional zoning
yeah.
case, right? Yeah.
And a use permit can always.
No, I think that's pretty helpful, actually. I mean, anyway, we can talk about that later.
Yeah,
but I
don't wanna get
think
into
to the
discussion.
extent that we believe that the staffer is really going to do a good job, which I think they have every intention to do, that would provide me a certain. I'd be interested what the traffic engineer thinks about that as well.
Well, and again, I don't want to get into discussion, but what you said about they could decide that they don't have the budget for the staff, I don't think this is staff that they hire to just do parking and streets.
Understood.
It's
Yeah.
their staff that's already on staff payroll that comes out and does it.
Understood, but presumably they hire more people because they have those people doing other things, where if they didn't have them doing that, they could shrink their budget.
All right. Any further questions for the applicant? I do have a couple of questions for you. One specifically related to the existing elementary school located south of Greenfield on the east side of the road. Does your traffic impact analysis include that school and any potential conflicts or traffic that's generated from that school operating at that time as well? I'm going to ask the same question to the traffic engineer, but I thought I'd at least give you the opportunity to answer as well.
Thank you, Chairman.
You can defer if you want.
The traffic engineering report we have filed does take into account all background traffic, including that school. We realize that the peak hour movements of that school, because it's an elementary school, making left-hand turns out onto Greenfield, which exists today, can create difficulty for some of our parents making that same movement of a left turn onto Greenfield at this location, since they're not very far away. Again, we believe that, in our manual, we can make it clear that if you need to go south on Greenfield, unless you're moving at a time when it's very clear, you're going to have to make right-hand turns. Now, I know the traffic engineer will say, oh, parents won't do that. They'll just make a U-turn and come on back. But our experience is that our parents actually do what we say. And candidly, when you sit and wait in a 5-minute queue or a 3-minute queue to make a left-hand turn, when you can make 3 rights, even though you're going 1.5 miles out of your way, I know my wife would choose that any day of the week, simply because it's easier and it's less difficult. So we actually put it in the manual that, coming out of this and making a right to get up to baseline to go left or going up to the freeway, that's a fairly easy movement, right-hand turns. The left may be more difficult. We need to probably study that further.
Thank you. And isn't there also a charter school located just a little bit east of here on the north side of the road as well?
East of this location?
Uh-huh.
And there's one over on Wrecker. I'm not familiar.
No, I think there's one less than a
Is there one?
quarter mile from here.
Okay.
A small one, I think on the north side, just west of those office industrial
Dr. Scroggins
locations.
is saying yes, so.
Okay. I'm just trying to get the context of the neighborhood and the potential traffic, which obviously we'll hear from the traffic engineer.
And let me just make one other comment, since I live fairly close to this location down Lindsay Road. I've made an effort over the last couple of weeks to come to this intersection at AM peaks between 7:30 and 8:30 and PM peaks, both the 3:30 PM peak and the 5:30 normal PM peak. And this is a problem that's going to exist in the future. It's not a problem today. I mean, I made every possible movement in and out of this driveway facility and through the bank and left hands and right hand turns. There was no delay at all. So I understand we have to deal with a problem not only now but 20 years from now. It's important that it always works. I'm just saying it's not an issue today, but in the future, if issues come up, we will certainly deal with them. But again, I want to make the absolute commitment that we won't allow off-site intersections to degrade below service level D for anything we do.
And I think, and your point was well taken, but I think that the ability for you to make turning movements is because you also don't have 300 people, 20, 50 other cars trying to make the same turning movements at the same time, right?
And that's candidly why allowing unrestricted movement of parent cars is simply not workable in a charter school environment. And that's candidly why you've experienced problems in the past, because when they're unrestricted, they're all trying to, go at the same time, or they're going to make U-turns if they want to go a different direction. That's why we have our faculty advisors out there to make sure things are done metered correctly.
I know that my second question, it relates to your 56th Street location. You made a lot of reference to that particular location and the circulation patterns, but it looks like that particular location isn't similarly located on an arterial street and may have access to a residential street before getting onto maybe a collector street.
No, it's actually 56th Street is a major collector.
Okay.
And used by the entire neighborhood. And for what it's worth, those of you that know that area of Phoenix, it's a very sensitive area. People love that area of Phoenix. And so actually it can be more bothersome to residential users that you don't have your traffic under control. And the movement is down to, is it Thomas? Yeah, down to Thomas Road. You're making rights out of the facility down to Thomas, and then you're going east or west on Thomas. So while it's not on an arterial location, it would be like being very close to an arterial location.
No, I think the reference that I was making is that the actual exit, the main exit from the parking area doesn't appear to be directly on the collector. It appears to be on a residential street first before you get to the collector.
No, it's actually exiting on 56th Street, which is the major collector. And so, you know, it's not on arterial, it's not exiting on arterial like this one would be, but it is exiting onto a major collector. And we don't allow parents to turn left out of that exit, because again, that backs up traffic, so we ask them to turn right.
Okay.
And then make a right on Thomas.
And Ellie brought that up as a comparison between the sites and potential traffic patterns. Okay, I appreciate it.
Well, my point in bringing that other side up was just to say that we have experience having our faculty be on site every day. Sometimes they take turns, but they're required as part of their job to be a part of this because it's so critical to have traffic move smoothly.
Okay.
Thanks.
Oh, Commissioner or Vice Chairman Ayler has a question for you.
Yeah, just could you bring up the green one, the green lines? I just wanted a little clarification. There, you can, when you get to the point of choice where it goes to the dotted lines, is there 2 lanes where I could be in a right lane or a left lane? I'm not stacking behind each other. There's actually 2 lanes of egress.
Assuming that's correct. Where's our traffic at? Are there 2 lanes there? Yeah. The answer to your question is yes, there are 2 lanes, one to go right, one to go left.
Okay, so if I was choosing the left, it would be easier to choose the right and look at your 3 right turn scenario than stacking in the left, and you can meter from there. That's what the
that's
blue
what
dot.
having a person here will only allow. Sorry for my voice, but will only allow the number of cars to go west through the parking lot to get out, as this aerial shows, so that we don't negatively impact our adjacent commercial properties. Even though we have a reciprocal easement agreement, nevertheless, you don't want to send too many cars that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Earl? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, with that, we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing. Is there anybody here wishing to, oh, sorry, not open up the public hearing, but open up for public comment? Is there anybody here? Oh, I'm sorry, the traffic engineer, would you like to come up? And Eric, I don't want to pronounce your last name wrong, so I'm just going to say Eric G.
Eric Gadarian, town traffic engineer, and I guess just a couple points of clarification from some of the previous questions regarding Vice Chairman Euler's question about this access. There is only a single left turn and right turn lane. There's not a dual lane where there's a single left turn and right turn coming out onto Baseline, where it has not been shown in the analysis yet.
He's answering your question. Eric is answering your question.
Yeah, no.
Sorry. So there is only a single lane here to turn left or right out of.
Right.
Okay.
I was looking at on-site.
Further down here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm happy to answer some questions. I have some clarifications and also some concerns that I can share, but happy to answer any questions at this time.
I think we'd like to hear your basic presentation and your overview of the site, and then maybe we'll have some additional questions that maybe you can answer or clarify if they're not answered during your presentation.
Sure. And as part of traffic engineering and a traffic impact analysis, stories are nice, but we also have to look at numbers. Unfortunately, we haven't seen many numbers because the numbers that the traffic engineer has presented in the traffic impact analysis shows that yes, they can get their vehicles on site. It's getting them off site, which is the issue, which they don't, because Baseline Road is a 6-lane arterial, and Greenfield Road is a 4-lane arterial that will be congested. They had to look 10 years into the future to see what sort of impacts the site would cause. They don't have the opportunity to make those lefts out onto Baseline. So I think I just want to talk a little bit about some of the site constraints about this particular piece of property that we have concerns about, and talking about some of the methodologies that the school is saying that they will use. As I mentioned, there's only a direct access out onto Baseline, which is a 6-lane facility. It will have a median in the future. And also then they have the joint access agreement onto Greenfield Road. Also, these full access driveways are not exclusive to the school site, that they're shared with the commercial properties. There's 2 other parcels that will be part of this overall development. Also, it's nice to say, well, we'll just make our parents make 3 rights, and that they, and they'll get back to wherever they need to go. I'd like to show you where those 3 rights are. This is approximately where the school site is, next to the Greenfield and Baseline intersection. They're saying that, and because of the roadway network, there are no collector roadways that connect through to the south or to the north. You have to come all the way over to Higley Road, which is 3/4 to 8/10 of a mile. You'll have to either then go north up to the 60 and come back around, or go down to Guadalupe and through. So it's essentially a 2-mile detour. In our past experience with schools, I respect the notion that the parents will do what they say, but once they're off the school site, the school has no authority or jurisdiction, and we deal with those traffic issues. A almost 2-mile detour to get back to Greenfield, if you live directly west of the site, that is a very difficult movement to make. Another thing that makes this site difficult is the existing driveways, the way they're built. They have very, very short storage lengths. They're approximately 40 to 60 feet. It's not conducive to putting a traffic signal in there, just because you can stack 2 to 3 cars. That's what you get out before you start losing efficiency of a traffic signal. Yep. I think the major issue we have with this is, with the analysis, is the traffic analysis has shown that to get out of the site without everybody making a right, where we have a concern that they will try to make U-turns or cut through the traffic or cut through the commercial property, those people that are trying to go south, trying to go west, trying to go north from the site, actually, the issue is they may have somebody monitoring this site, but because the way we have our traffic signals coordinated, there's a very small window for people to make lefts out onto the site. And their drop-off area here for the archway, the school drop-off area is right here, approximately 150 feet from the driveway. Their analysis is showing that the queue will extend way past this and back up any sort of on-site traffic. Same thing with the preparatory, that if this is the main point of access to make lefts, then all of a sudden the queue will actually extend. The analysis showing that the queue will extend past this driveway. So then essentially then what they're saying is everybody is going to be making a right. They've shown in their new analysis, or the new report that we received yesterday, that they'll have traffic come over here to Greenfield. There's no way for a monitor to be able to see what sort of stacking is happening at this Greenfield driveway, because there are buildings in the way. It's a good distance away. The traffic analysis we showed, it's not in the report because they didn't report it, but this intersection will act at LOSF if they shift the traffic over there, causing great delays and blocking of that driveway and blocking of the business access. Another, I guess, just thing I want to bring up as we talk about land uses, there was a previous plat on the site for 75,000 square feet of medical and dental office. I just wanted to show kind of comparative trip generation that we're talking about for different types of land uses that could go on this site, and some of the concerns we have with putting a school here that just accesses arterials. As you can see, these come out of the traffic study that the applicant has prepared, that the site will generate 913 trips. That includes both inbound and outbound trips in the AM peak hour, and 654 in the PM when school is getting out. These are comparative land uses that with what was the previous plat would be 179 trips in the AM peak hour, approximately 1/5 of what the school is generating. If you put straight office buildings in there, it'd be slightly less in the morning and slightly less than the medical and dental. And then we also looked at what if a shopping center went in there, general retail, because of the characteristics of retail. In the morning, there isn't a whole lot of traffic, but in the afternoon, it starts to get up to what a school would generate, but not the same. I think staff's concerns are not, is mostly with the site and can it handle and can we get traffic off of the site? With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Eric. One question for you quickly.
Sure.
Did I hear you correctly that the impact analysis study, the traffic impact analysis study that was submitted by the applicant did not include the school located to the south?
Correct. In our previous iterations of the traffic study, they were just showing access out onto Baseline, and so we really focused on the intersections along Baseline. The new study that was submitted yesterday, the only access point that they really looked at, and they don't have traffic counts for, they assumed some traffic was the access onto Greenfield, but did not look further south.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Fuller?
I got a couple questions. Just sticking with this with this exhibit, and I'm trying to wrap my brain around this, and hopefully you can help me. So, if you go to the proposed school site, you've got 557 people coming on, 356 leaving. So, in my mind, there's 200 cars that are staying on. Is that right?
Mr. Fuller, that's yes.
Okay.
I think. And a little bit of understanding of this, charter schools are relatively new. We don't have good trip generation numbers for charter schools, so we use the private school trip generation.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But yes.
All right. So just follow me through this. So you've got 200 staying on, 557 are coming in, 356 are leaving. You got 200 staying on for whatever reason. The PM, you got 270 coming and 379 leaving. So you've got an extra 100 that are leaving in the PM. So what happens? Where did the other 100 go from the AM? Sure. I mean, basically you've got, it looks to me like you've got 9, whatever it is, and I mean, there's a reason I haven't taken math since freshman year in high school, but you know, you've got 825 or whatever it is coming in, and 725 leaving. How does that jibe?
Commissioner Fuller, these are average trip rates that are taken over multiple sites. Usually the AM peak hour is higher because everybody is arriving at the same time. Typically, especially when you have upper levels, you usually have after-school activities that spreads the traffic out in the PM a little bit longer, so not everybody is coming and going right when school is getting out.
Okay, I was just trying to internalize the information that was given, so I'm trying to, in my mind, thinking, well, maybe there's 200 people that are staying there that work there or whatever reason, and it looks like we got 100 cars that are staying there overnight, but I'm sure that's not it. So
they just leave after the peak hour.
Or maybe that's it. Maybe they leave after the peak hour. That very well could be.
Or before.
That's right. Yeah. Okay. So just to get more to my questions, could you go back to your site plan that you had with the traffic? Keep going. Yeah. That's good. Let's do that one. That one's different than what the applicant had. I think the applicant's slide it showed an access onto the easements.
Correct.
Yeah, to the west.
These were the latest figures that I had, sorry.
Okay, so that's the latest you had. So, and this brings me to my question is, how does that easement affect your analysis on this? The fact that they can shuttle people west through the bank site and auto repair, how does that affect your evaluation of this?
Sure, and I guess from my review, what happened is initially they were showing a number of vehicles trying to make a left turn out of here on Baseline.
Yeah.
It shows that there just isn't the net available capacity to make those turns, so they moved those people over to the Greenfield driveway and did not. And then from there, either went south on Greenfield or north on Greenfield. Our review of the traffic models that were included with the report show that essentially they just shifted the delay from this driveway over to the driveway on Greenfield, and that there would be queuing that would occur there.
Okay, so just so I understand, instead of having a really long delay on Baseline, you had two moderately long delayed, one on Baseline, one on Greenfield. Is that too simplistic of a way of looking at it?
They took all their left turns away from this and essentially moved them over to this. So the
gotcha.
driveway operated great, but they just essentially moved the problem location.
Okay. Let me ask you this just bluntly. Is there, not like I do it any other way, but is there a scenario that they could come and propose to you and say, hey, we'll do this on the traffic pattern, or, let us move this around, where you would potentially support and say, hey, you know what, I think this is okay here? Is there anything that they could do that where you would think a school of this size and this student body and this trip generation would make sense on this site?
I'm hesitant to say no because there may be other options. I think it is very difficult, and I think from day one we've been very upfront with them that a right-out situation only on the Baseline is not acceptable to the town because of the long detour and the U-turns, and we haven't seen anything yet from the applicant to
Okay, and I certainly don't want to lock you in and say no, but I think that's a fair response.
It's very difficult with the number of trips we're looking at and with the existing roadway network that's there to make it work. And I understand, and charter schools do a good job of processing traffic, but we hear it from every school. We went up. We made sure that staff could get up to the charter school at 56th Street and look at that. There are some major differences there. One is it exits out onto a 3-lane collector road instead of a 6-lane arterial. Unfortunately, we did witness a few vehicles making a left and not a right out onto 56th Street. So they can control their traffic on site. It's once it gets off site or trying to get off site that really is based on the roadway network.
Okay.
And this is a very difficult parcel to make a school work.
Okay. So just so I can summarize for myself, it's you're not saying no, there isn't anything they can do. They haven't presented anything to you that would work, and you haven't thought of it. It's just a very difficult site, and they haven't presented anything to you that you've been able to say, hey, look, this is what I think it will take to get it to work. Is that an accurate summary?
Correct.
Okay. And just my final question is, the on-site queuing, in my mind, I think, and I'd like to get your opinion on this, it does seem like something that, it does seem like something they could control on site. It seems like they do have more queuing than we have seen in the vast majority of places. Would you classify that as maybe a minor issue for you guys? The real issue is the right, and the right, all the right turns. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yes, I think the major issue is getting people off site and getting them going in the direction that they should be going.
Gotcha. Okay.
And without them all making right turns out onto Baseline or onto Greenfield, that queue starts to stack back and affect the drop-off area and the queuing. The on-site stacking, we've worked with them and they rearranged their site plan to provide more stacking, and so that's less of a concern.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Thanks for enlightening me on that.
Commissioner Powell?
Thank you, Chair. I think I hear what you're saying, but if I were in private enterprise and if I was faced with trying to make something work, you'd make it work. I can think of medians that might prevent left-hand turns that could be installed. I could think of no U-turn signs that might make it work. I'm looking at the map. If you can go back to the site that shows the vacant lots right there. The vacant lot immediately on the east, right off from Greenfield, it's zoned general commercial. Ultimately, it's going to be built out by somebody. That's going to create the need to have traffic coming in off from Greenfield, traffic going off onto Baseline. It seems like to me that in the future, in order to make that facility or that site work for everyone when it's completely built out, you might have to have some combining and some multiple joint uses of ingresses and egresses. It seems like to me that we could develop a plan that would make this work going forward, so that as that builds out, that you could adapt that so those uses are shared by everybody. So, yeah, from my perspective, I think there's opportunities here to make this work, and I just wanted to bring those up.
Commissioner Peterson, did you say you had something?
Thank you. Eric, there's been some talk about doing double left lane turns on Baseline and changing the signalization. Is that something that is easily changed, accommodated, considering I know we must share that with Mesa since it's Baseline Road in Greenfield?
Sure, Commissioner Peterson. The actual roadway width is there I believe, to make dual lefts. I think the most difficult part is probably the coordination with Mesa. We will have to work with them to do that.
So that's something that your department would work with them to possibly add the double left lanes and change the maybe timing of the signalization and everything, since we don't control it as Gilbert.
We actually do control that.
Oh, we do? Oh, interesting.
We have this section of Baseline is under our jurisdiction.
Do we take turns of which section?
We actually do, yes.
We do. Because I would have figured we had Higley because we go up to the freeway at Higley, but I didn't realize we had Baseline in Greenfield. I think pretty much Commissioner Fuller asked the other questions that I had, so thank you.
Welcome, Commissioner Cavney. I meant to announce you earlier.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
Do you have any questions for staff at this point?
I kind of echo some of the other comments, particularly Kyle's. I think there's plenty of opportunity here, and maybe we're not there yet. Fair enough. But I think if we control that median, then maybe there's some opportunity we can offer to this applicant to make some of the ingress egress a little bit more palpable once they leave the site. Yeah, I mean, I realize we don't want to dump on any of the residential streets. I get that. And I don't think there at this time is any opportunity to bring them any further south. So I think we have to deal with what we've got, and I don't have any specific answer either. I would look to you as the expert for us here, but I do agree that we've got opportunities we should pursue.
I guess I'll just do a couple points of clarification. Currently out on Baseline there is not a median. It will be a project that's slated in the next 10 years to build a median, so there's just a center left-hand turn lane. on sections of baseline near the existing school, there's a section right here that isn't fully built because of this. The farmland comes down. You know, we have that section signed for no left turns and no U-turns currently, and I don't, you know, it's something we're just going to have to see what sort of mitigation we can have happen and how to make that happen.
Thank you. I think I have one follow-up question related to the surrounding land uses on this particular parcel and the future development that may occur. I think right now it's slated for additional commercial. I'm assuming that the traffic impact analysis that was submitted included potential future trip generations build out for those parcels as well, and the impact that it may cause to the ingress and egress of the driveways on Baseline and Greenfield?
Chairman Whitman, we actually did not take into account this parcel or this parcel in the future. We did have the traffic engineer for the applicant take into account the parcels to the north on the Mesa site.
But nothing on site that would potentially use that driveway also?
Correct.
Okay. All right. I don't think there's any further questions. I appreciate your input and your presentation, Eric. All right, with that, I don't have any cards from anybody wishing to speak. After comments. Is there anybody here wishing to speak on this matter? I don't have any cards or anybody. Oh, sir, if you could, absolutely. If you could fill out a card after, you don't have to do it right now, but after you speak, if you could give your name and city of residence.
Commissioner Whitman, for clarification, could you please open the public hearing?
We did at the beginning of when we opened this item, we opened the public hearing before staff came up.
Oh, before staff?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
If you could give your name and town of residence for the record.
My name is Gary Nelson. I live in Gilbert, and I live in that residential area just east of Quinn, the Green Acres area. And the biggest concern I think we have with that, I don't have the slides up here, but on Baseline at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, it's very difficult. Okay, yeah.
He'll go ahead.
When we try to get out to go to work in the morning, and trying to get on the Baseline, it can take us several minutes to get across because the traffic is so heavy going to the west. And that what I find is a lot of people coming out of Quinn, out of our subdivision, will take a right-hand turn and then a quick left into that. There's a small hospital there to make their U-turns and then come back out so they can go west. And if I'm looking at a school where they're all turning right to come out there, that just doubles up that traffic at Quinn. The only solution we could see is that our neighborhood is, if that's the traffic, then we need a stoplight at that intersection because it can be almost impossible or very difficult to get out of our subdivision going to the west if you're putting in the school with that extra traffic. And that's probably our biggest concern. The other concern, but I guess they're going to handle that, is students parking along that Quinn Road before they get into the subdivision when they're overloaded. And hopefully that won't happen, but that's one of the concerns we were having just talking about during here. That's basically what I wanted to say, was just the concerns getting out of there in the mornings.
Great, I appreciate your input. Is there any questions for Mr. Nelson? Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming down. Anybody else wishing to speak on this matter? Okay, we'll invite the applicant back up.
Chairman, members of the commission, I highly respect Eric as a traffic engineer, and I want to freely admit I'm not an engineer. And so I have to concede to the position of an engineer who's reviewing these things. That said, I wanted to make a few things clear that I think we agree on. One, I didn't hear any dispute that we will not degrade any off-site intersections below service level D. That we are committed, if necessary, to improve the intersection of Greenfield and Baseline to have dual lefts, and that there is, I think, right-of-way to make that happen. Not only right-of-way, but actually pavement width to make that happen. So increasing the capacity of that intersection is not a significant problem. So whenever you have a use on property, the number one thing is, are you going to negatively impact off-site facilities? And so that was the number one goal of ours, to make sure that no other intersection where the public is using that intersection would be degraded by virtue of our people coming. Second thing I wanted to make clear is that our PM peak is not the normal PM peak. Normal PM peak would be roughly 4 o'clock to maybe 6 or 3:30 to 5:30, but our traffic, although it's, as I think has been mentioned, some will stay for athletic events, but the schools are letting out long before that, so that our PM peak is before traffic really gets heated up for normal PM peaks. So I haven't heard that that's the issue, is a PM distribution of cars coming in or exiting. But that does get us back to AM. We are staggering the schools, so again, we're not doubling up all these students at the same time. Half are coming at a different time. And we recognize that our challenge is AM exit from the property. That's the one that seems to create problems. But again, it's a problem on our property, not affecting anyone else. I heard Eric say that there's a significant potential challenge with people leaving our site and coming here and potentially turning left. That is an open element where you could turn left. But that's in our humble opinion, based on the fact that we know where our students are coming from. I mean, we have a current school in Mesa that we're closing down because it's an inadequate facility. It was based on an existing church to build a ground-up facility here. So we already know the scatter of where the parents are located, plus we have the waiting list to know where they're located. So while there are some that want to go south, the primary access would be north and maybe a left-hand turn here. And so a right turn out here is not a significant degraded movement. We agree that that movement may be problematic. Again, these are on our site. We also feel that this exit right here may not allow left turns out on a normal basis, but if you have a person standing at that point, allowing where there is opportunities for lefts, you make the lefts. We also appreciate that the neighbors here that use Quinn would like to have a traffic signal there. If a traffic signal were proposed there, and of course that's not in our control because we have no access to Quinn, but if one were proposed there, it would allow more safe left-hand out and would obviously create breaks in the traffic that would make it easier for us to make lefts out. But our primary movement for our parents will be, if they really have to go north or they have to go west, is to meter them through here. If they're going to go east and go north that direction, to make right outs, whether it's here or here. And by again, I know it's hard to quantify, and I know it's very difficult for a traffic engineer to listen to stories. I think that was the term that Eric used, or anecdotal evidence. But in a school like this, that's kind of the key. What is your program? Do you have experience with your program? Do you run it efficiently and effectively? Do your parents and the students actually do what the program says? And for all those reasons, we believe we can make this work. And we don't feel the site is too small for a school. And in fact, it's well large enough for all the activities we would have on the site. And we do believe that the stacking on the site will allow us to control the metering of how it approaches the off-site facilities.
Thank you, Mr. Earl. Any comments? Vice Chairman Ayler?
Yeah, I had a quick question. You talked about staggering, and those numbers that we had from Eric, are those from your traffic engineer, or was that created by our staff? The 900 and 600, basically the two numbers.
Those are total trips.
Okay. Well, yeah, but I guess my question in the staggering.
Half in, half out, and then
right.
staggered.
So it's 450, and then if they're staggered, I guess that's kind of is that number taken in consideration the staggering, because then you're just using round numbers, 225.
Well, technically, both aspects of the school would be during the peak in the mornings, and some would be coming before 8, some would be coming at 8:30. So you'd count both of those as a peak. But we're not bringing them all there at the same time, is our point. We're staggering them so that they can come at different times.
So that's a generalization number of schools that would have one entry, because most schools have one bell and everybody's in. And
right. Okay. We bring in you can see for obvious reasons, we want our elementary school students to arrive at a different time than the older kids.
Okay. Well, yeah, it just makes sense. I just was more wanting clarification of that number. That number is a general number for all schools and not taking in consideration two bells,
Public schools may not stagger their entrance times.
All right. Thank you.
Commissioner Fuller? No. I don't know if anybody else has questions, but I had a question on a statement that you made, a couple of them that I just want clarification on. One was, did I hear you correctly that the school intends to provide somebody controlling traffic at the full turning access point on Baseline Road? So is somebody going to be standing at that intersection?
Right there.
Correct. Controlling traffic or suggesting?
Yeah, they can make a decision if there's an opportunity for a left. There's a break in traffic, they might let a few go through. Otherwise, they're metering people who want to get to that intersection, and they're metering them out over here to make a right-hand turn to go up and turn left or to go through. Other parents are being asked to come to this middle entrance and turn right only. Even though theoretically, because this is not a median, you could make a left out here, but we will have cones and a diverter actually built that will be a right out only.
I'm trying to wrap my brain around this. So the school is proposing to have somebody stand on the street corner, maybe the sidewalk area, directing
not on the
traffic?
street corner, back, maybe if we go back to this overhead. You can see here where we're proposing that a person would be here.
Okay.
Before they would make the decision to go that way or this way, they would be monitored by an on-site circulation person. Most of them would be directed this way, because in the AM peak, that, as Eric has pointed out, is a difficult left turn movement. Even though in the AM peak I made it about 6 times without any difficulty. But I agree, that's today, that's not 10 years from now. When there will be more traffic associated with the vacant parcels that are there or underutilized commercial parcels. But it can be made today. In the future, there may be a signal at Quinn. We don't know, but there may be other ways for us to solve this problem. We're content with the staff's condition, which is to approve subject to working out these issues, because we believe we can.
Commissioner Cavity?
Yeah, I just need to understand something too here. And if you could go back to the aerial map, you've referenced a couple of times some connectivity to the south over to Greenfield. And yet I don't see that on your flow here, so I'm not understanding how you're getting, I think it's through the Pioneer Elementary parking lot, but how do you connect to that? Now further, okay, so you're getting through there.
To the north. The north.
The elementary school to the south has an access point here.
Right, you're not using that one, right?
Yeah, and we're accessing way up here.
Okay, and how are you getting from your parcel to there? Because there's
you can go in 2 different ways, Commissioner. You can take the back access around the back side of the current Chase Bank and come over, or you can go through the parking lot this way.
Got it. Okay, that's what I needed. Thank you.
Vice Chairman Ehler.
I guess in looking at the traffic and understanding your stipulation, and working, what if we were to approve something, working with our traffic engineer to come up with an answer. And I guess a little of my worry is what happens if you can't get there.
Well, ultimately, if we can't get there, then we'll have to come back to you or appeal the matter to council and let them make the decision. I guess we're optimistic that if we sit down in a room with 2 traffic engineers and a bunch of non-traffic engineers, we can figure out a way to make this work. Because we're kind of committed to this site, and candidly, we need to open by August. So we're highly motivated to get this problem solved quickly.
Thank you.
Mr. Earl, I'm going to ask you a question. You can choose not to answer.
I'll answer anything you ask me, Madam Chair.
It seems like there's a lot of questions left for the commissioners here on this site related to traffic, and it seems like there's a lot of questions outstanding with the traffic engineer as well. If it goes this way, I'm not saying that it will, but if it goes this way, would you be amenable to continuing to the next Planning Commission agenda item, or agenda hearing? I think we're having another meeting, actually, a special meeting a couple weeks from now. And again, you can choose not to answer right now. But based on the comments I'm hearing thus far, it seems like there's a lot of question out there. And rather than make a decision, I'd like to ask you your thoughts.
Madam Chair.
I know what your preference probably is.
Our preference is to proceed, but we understand. And if we could only have a 2-week continuance rather than a month, that would be workable.
Okay.
That would give us 2 weeks to work very hard with Eric and other members of staff to figure out how this works. Because again, our challenge is we have to start construction so we're open by August. So continuances that get into more than a month become very problematic for us. But if there was in fact a special hearing 2 weeks from now, I guess that would give us a very narrow window to work these problems out.
And if you couldn't, there's 2 weeks from then.
Yeah, right.
Again, only bringing that up simply as an option, as I didn't want to take the opportunity to close the public hearing and bring it out to us and impose something on you that you may not be receptive to. So
we're willing to do what the commission desires.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Earl. Any further questions for Mr. Earl? All right, with that, staff, do you have anything further you'd like to add to your presentation? No? Eric, are you good? Anything further you'd like to comment upon?
Just one comment as we're talking about staff members at that driveway and some of the volumes that we're looking at and trying to direct traffic on a very short driveway that's 60 feet long. We can never stop incoming traffic coming in because then it'll back up on the baseline. We have 600 inbound vehicles coming through that driveway. Trying to get people across is going to be very difficult. It's going to be very busy. It's going to be hard to direct traffic there. So I want to bring that up. It's not a simple staff matter of, well, I can see an opening coming in 20 seconds. We're going to send 3 cars out now. It's not going to work like that. We have some concerns with that driveway and how cars have to drive around there. So just wanted to close with that. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the dais for comment and discussion. Commissioner Fuller?
You know, typically, when we approve something subject to the applicant and staff working out details, it's usually, we don't do that very often, but when we do it, it's usually something fairly minor that we think it's just kind of, dotting the I's, crossing the T's. On this one, I think it's more significant than that. And moreover, I would like to see what the proposed response is, what the proposed solution is before we moved it on to council. So, my thoughts would be.
Well, it wouldn't move on to council. It stays with us unless they appeal it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Right.
Yeah.
And so, my thoughts would be I would like to see it and give the applicant and staff a chance to especially because we have one in 2 weeks, to really sit down and hammer this out. I will tell you that I think this is typically we don't look at users and we're instructed to look at, and it is our goal to look at it. It is a planning decision regardless of who the user is. I think this is a great, having said that, I will now say, I think this is a great user, and I think it's a great product in the town, something that is really a quality type of use and user at this location. I have to believe, like the other commissioner said, that we can make this work somehow. I just think that it's been, I don't think we got the updated staff report till
last night.
Yeah, last night. So I think we're all kind of, we're chewing through this pretty quickly, and I think if hopefully these extra 2 weeks we'll be able to sit down and the traffic engineer can get happy, and the applicant, with something that works for the applicant. So my suggestion would be to continue the matter for 2 weeks till our special meeting, and see if we can come to see if the parties can come to a resolution in the interim that works for both of them. I really applaud the applicant's willingness to stipulate to certain things, and you have some people that say, hey, yeah, this is what we're going to do, but yeah, don't stip us to that. We want the flexibility. I think they'll say, look, if we told you we're going to do it, we're 100% okay you stepping us to all that, because that's the way we run. There's one way we run on our establishment, and that's it. So I got to believe that there's a way we can make this work somehow. So I will let the engineers hopefully figure that out.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Peterson?
Chairman, I completely agree with Commissioner Fuller. I think that there's a little too much discussion left, and I'd be happy to even stipulate with the condition that they get together if this wasn't the only stop for this school. Being a use permit, not having to go to council, we are the final decision. I would like to see if it can all be worked out, and I'd be happy to see it on our agenda in 2 weeks if they can work it through. I know time is money and money is time, so.
Absolutely. Commissioner Powell?
We promote Gilbert to be one of the best places to live. And we have an opportunity here tonight to assist a great cause. And if we all see the value in this, then it's my opinion that we ought to give these people an opportunity to go forward. We delay this because we think there's not enough answers, but we're comfortable with who they are and what they're bringing to the town. We can find the answers, we can make it work. Delaying this for 2 weeks, I don't think brings any value. Doesn't bring any value to us. Ultimately, we want something like this. We like these kind of projects. These people have prepared a very nice presentation. They're doing everything in their power, as far as I can see, to try to manage this traffic. If they go away, somebody else will come, and they'll be faced with the very same issue. So I highly suggest that we vote yes. We move this project forward, and then work collectively to try to make it work.
Any further comments? Vice Chairman?
I look at this project and I applaud the applicant on showing us how it's going to be used, the stacking, the site, working with us to stipulate per the manual. But with the circumstances that we have, we just happen to have another meeting in 2 weeks. There's a lot to work with. It's a use permit, so it only comes to us. I'd really like to see the work, and I think it will make a lot better project in looking through what solutions are viable. I see it and I look at it, but I just don't quite see the answer yet, and hopefully the engineers can see that answer. Because I truly appreciate the project coming here to Gilbert, and I'd like to see how it can work itself out traffic-wise. But with the ability to have it in 2 weeks, I really think we should continue this.
Commissioner Cavney?
I'm a little torn. I understand the positions on both sides, and I'd like to see it move forward, but I do also want our staff to be happy, and I want them to believe in it as much as we believe in it. So I think I'd probably generally lean towards giving them one more shot at a solution. Not to say that if they can't come together, we couldn't still say yes, but I think we look at this one more time.
And I agree with my fellow commissioners, well, the majority of them. It's a great use. The use that's proposed at this location is a great use. However, I think that there are some difficulties in the site design for this particular location, and that difficulty revolves around traffic and the impact around the existing on-site traffic as well as off-site traffic, as well as how it coordinates with other schools in the vicinity during the same peak hours. And so right now, in my mind, the use permit has 4 findings that has to be met by the state. And I don't think the first finding, in my opinion, is being met if the traffic poses a potential safety issue. I know that the applicant had mentioned that they can kind of coordinate traffic on site. But again, the concern is what happens when it's off-site, and that's the bigger concern, I think. I think that hopefully, with the continuance, that the traffic engineers can meet and come up with a solution that can be supported by the town and brought back to us in a couple of weeks. I know that's probably a lot of work in a very condensed period of time. Normally our meetings are once a month, and so we basically have a week and a half probably before staff reports are due to get it to the next hearing. But my concern really revolves around staff's concern, and also revolves around the adjacent uses and the adjacent schools that are existing there today. And it also, I would like to see when it comes back to us, some information and input on the existing uses that are approved, or the land use that is approved on the site that's not currently built, and how, when built in the future, it may impact or not impact those particular parcels. If we have half of the site being detoured to Greenfield Road, how is that going to impact those commercial uses on that site? So there's a series of questions left in my mind, obviously, and I'm hoping that the next time we get together that there will be maybe the engineers walking in hand and a solution to all of these issues, and we can hear it quickly. But right now, as it stands, I don't feel I'm in a position that I could support the request at this time. So I think I would fully support a continuance to allow staff and the applicant an opportunity to work on these issues.
You ready for
So with
motion?
that, yes, please.
Make sure I get the agenda item right this time. Madam Chair, I move that we continue agenda item UP 13-17 to our next special meeting to be held on October 23rd.
23rd?
Yeah, it's actually 3 weeks from now. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
3 weeks.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion for continuance by Commissioner Fuller, a second by Commissioner Peterson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Oppose.
Okay, Commissioner Sippel opposes.
No.
Oh, Powell, sorry.
Commissioner Sippel
Sorry.
abstains.
Yeah, you're abstaining. I'm sorry. We have 1 abstention, 1 opposing, and the rest supporting the continuance. Okay, thank you, everyone. Does anybody want a quick break, or you want to move on?
Let's go.
Can we take a 5-minute break? Thank you, everyone. All right, our mics, can you hear me? All right, I think our mics are back on now. All right, we'll go ahead and reconvene and move on to agenda item number GP 13-13 and the companion zoning case Z 13-23, which is for a single-family residential project located east of the southeast corner of McQueen and Warner Roads. And with that, we'll invite up Mr. Williams again. We'll open the public hearing.
Thank you, Chair Whitman, members of the Planning Commission. General plan amendment, rezone from essentially 13.3 acres of shopping center to residential 2.5 or 2 to 3.5, 2 to 3.5. The applicant is proposing an SF6 PAD zoning as well. So here's the site here, located essentially at the southeast corner of McQueen and Warner Roads. Again, 13.3 gross acres. Applicant is proposing a PAD in order to provide this development plan, which has 44 individual detached lots, singular access point off of Islands Drive, across from existing Lobster Trap Drive. A secondary access on the emergency access would likely be required at the plat level here on the western portion of the site. Again, why the applicant's requesting a PAD is to solidify the site plan, essentially requiring the 44 lots, which is a gross density of 3.3 dwelling units an acre for this site. As you remember from last month's study session, there's some issues. Some of them on the bigger picture level, macro level. Some are on the micro level. The micro level would be this existing car wash, classic car spa on the 1.7 acres on the very southeast corner of the adjacent to the site, and how this use changing from commercial to residential would impact that user. Staff had concerns with it becoming a legal, non-conforming structure, not necessarily use, but structures on the site. And the applicant has provided, buffers and so forth, as you can see on this map or this exhibit, about 75 feet to the property to the east from the property line that would be designated as residential, or this is commercial. The lot would be 75 feet. This is over 100 feet here, which would provide a buffer. One item that's changed that I've provided to you is a signed letter from the car wash owner that the applicant has provided that they've reached an agreement in the sense that the applicant has provided to do a few things that the car wash owner would be happy with and supportive of. Staff notes that these are not part of the conditional use permit, and some of those things may or may not be able to be done, such as signage off-site and so forth. But nevertheless, they have an agreement with the car wash owner that he's comfortable with the proposed project. So that kind of addresses some of the macro level items, or micro level items. The macro is that, do we feel that rezoning and changing the land use designation from commercial to residential is adequate for this site? And one of the requests that was made by the Planning Commission members was that might help them make a decision was, what are some vacant commercial uses within 5 miles of the site, which is a pretty extensive area. As you can see, it goes all the way down to the 101 and the 202 there in the southwestern portion of this site. Obviously, the yellow asterisk is the subject intersection. All the parcels in red are vacant commercial and industrial land, developable land that is non-residential essentially. And you can see all of those areas that are currently developable. And again, this is quite a large area. This is data that ArcGIS created this map here from essentially data from the county as well as data we had. It includes Mesa, Chandler, Gilbert. So there we can at any time go back to this, but the applicant provided this as well, which is a bit of a smaller area, 3 miles around it. And these are, you can see the yellow there is the subject site, and then these are all vacant parcels within 3 miles of the site. And then, let's see. I also have an aerial of a little bit smaller area that you can see in aerials, and you can see what the vacant parcels are around there based on the zoning. So you can see at the southwest corner of Elliott and McQueen that there's vacant employment and commercial land and so on and so forth. Existing shopping center at Cooper and Warner, and if that helps. So you can we can delve into any of these maps if you find necessary. As I said, the request is for this 13.3 acre site, and it's a PAD. I think at this point, I would mention that, essentially, the question at hand is, does staff support the recommendation, or does staff support the change? Staff does not support the change from commercial to residential. We just are taking a little bit of a longer term approach to it, and in order to, we feel that taking a longer term approach meets more of the goals and policies of the general plan, and would not like to see the commercial lost, especially in our arterial intersection into the town of Gilbert, adjacent to Chandler. But you will see that there's two recommendations in your report. One's for denial of the request, the other is for approval of the request. So if either way you choose to recommend to the council is in the report, that you can make that recommendation to them. At this point, I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Is there questions for staff? Vice Chairman Naylor?
Just on your, the red areas, those are non-built. Those aren't all commercial. Those are just non-built and vacant lands.
Commissioner Ayler, that's correct. They're non-developed vacant parcels. They are all zone commercial or employment, though, which is industrial, business park, that type of thing. Obviously, there's different zoning categories in different jurisdictions, which these span 3 different jurisdictions. So,
but it doesn't include the existing commercial in addition to the vacant, right?
That does not include. And I think the applicant might have a figure or exhibit that shows vacant existing commercial properties around the area as well.
Yeah, I think that's what we were interested in too, was seeing what was out there built and just not being used. Yeah. And we'll get that. Yeah, we'll get that one. Shonda's presentation.
Any further questions for staff? I had one question. So at this time, based on the exhibit that's been proposed and the application that's presented, and the vacant commercial land uses that exist, staff is still, the recommendation is still for denial. And the reason, if I follow from your presentation, was based on the long-term goal and potential future use of this property?
Madam Chair, that's correct. We're taking we look at it in terms of long-term goals and policies of the general plan. What do we want to see here? Or what do we believe is a better use here, more viable use, more highest and best use of the site? Arterial intersection opposite of City of Chandler, amongst 4,000 units of the islands, given that it's built out and it's been there 25 years. Obviously back in 2007 there was a proposal for commercial development on the site. So as recently as 5-6 years ago, that was proposed, and obviously that didn't happen with the economy. But we are taking a bit of a longer approach versus the current proposal. But again, we have multiple recommendations for whatever you may choose. I would also mention that Economic Development Department hasn't been supportive of it. They're not here tonight or anything, but and then the Gilbert Chamber of Commerce has recently sent us some information where they want to take a closer look at the loss of not just this property, but all of these changes that we're seeing from commercial residential. I believe I wouldn't be overstating that they're troubled by the continued loss of commercial. Obviously, staff feels that some of these things, some of these proposals given across the street with as an example, or at the southeast corner of Williamsfield and Gilbert, some of these proposals do have some merit to them. So we take them on a case-by-case basis, but the Chamber of Commerce has been somewhat, they want us to get with them and discuss, the percentages of lost commercial and how much commercial we have today.
So not necessarily site-specific, they're just looking at the town overall and the loss of commercial.
Right, but, right, and there's multiple applications, as you know, going on for this at this time, so. But this has kind of been the catalyst from that. We presented this to the Chamber of Commerce, as well as, the other one down at down the Santan area, the regional commercial piece. So recently to the Chamber of Commerce. So. And
Economic Development has issued a formal recommendation of
Madam Chair, they have
denial?
not. They typically don't do that for us. They don't I'm not sure about the formal response, but we've met with them and the applicant, and they voiced their opposition to the request. So. And
is there recommendation of denial based on the long-term goals for the entire town, or is it site-specific?
Madam Chair, I don't believe I'm not sure I could answer that for them, but I think they get into site-specific, but they are more cognizant of the
overall picture.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if it was similar to the Chamber's kind of overall view.
They have looked at individual sites with us, and like I mentioned, a couple of those examples, and they did not have opposition to those.
Okay, great. Oh, sorry, Commissioner Fuller has some questions.
I'm sorry, just Nathan, when we talked last time, one of my, I don't want to attribute my thoughts to anybody else, that might be offensive to them, but one of my thought processes was, this is a part of town that is significantly, for the most part, built out, notwithstanding the current parcel. For the most part, there's just not a lot of rooftops coming in. And so the thought being that if rooftop, you certainly don't want to lose residential, you certainly don't want to lose commercial in areas where the rooftops are coming, they're just not there yet. And so this part of town, and this is more of my question for you, is let me know if you disagree with me. One, this is mostly built out, and there is vacant existing commercial buildings as far as I can remember. I know there's some certainly within a mile or two, I believe, maybe even right across the street and closer. So what is your thoughts on that from the long-term perspective? How is it that you're looking at it long term when we just don't see the rooftops being added to support, in my view, the existing commercial zoning on this site? What is it that you say, hey, look, this is what I'm looking to long term, where that's going to turn the ship around and make this a viable commercial site? We'll fill up the existing commercial. This is like a very compound sentence, I realize that, but we'll fill up the existing vacant commercial spaces and then warrant even additional commercial to what's there today.
Commissioner Fuller, there's a couple responses I would have to that. One, it is built out, and there's some struggling commercial centers. Ray and Cooper, I know that a school's going in there, and the whole big box. But there's some vacant commercial land around there. One thing is design of sites, that plays a role in needs. But I think one of the bigger points that as a planning staff we would make is that, I think we're always looking at commercial as, it's got to be a grocery store anchor, big anchor, this is what's going to be there. And our argument is always there's a lot of uses that are allowed in commercial that for example, the project you just saw in front of you. Before you, charter schools, congregate care, whatever the case may be, there's a lot of uses. I'm not saying that's what would work here, but there's multiple uses that work in commercial that this community needs as it grows and demands change and so on and so forth. It's not always going to be a grocery store.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's a fair comment. Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The town takes the position that it's best to use this as a commercial project. And what are your projections? I mean, when you consider the future going forward with all of the unpredictability and the uncertainty of things, I mean, and you say, let's hold this for the future, what are you thinking? 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years? It's already sat there for 25 years.
Commissioner Powell, I don't have a projection on years. I don't.
Okay.
We would have to conduct a, technical study to have that done.
I realize that. The question is meant to stimulate the thought that if it hasn't developed in 25 years, why would the town think it would develop in the next 25 years? If it's a site, there are some major arterials that just don't attract commercial build-outs. They just don't. And the people who invest this money, they don't invest it. And obviously they're experts in the industry because there's no return, so they don't do it. So I have a hard time understanding sometimes when the town takes these positions. Anyway, I just wanted to make that comment.
Thank you. Commissioner Cavity?
Just a couple quick questions, and rather than looking forward, let me look back. If you know this information, the last commercial interest in this property was 07? Is that we know of?
That is correct.
Okay, and maybe the applicant could shed more light on that. And then the adjacent corners, the one just to the north, the one at the northwest, do we know when those facilities were built? Do we have any idea at all?
Commissioner Cavity, I believe they were done when the islands were done back in the early 90s.
Okay, so a while ago.
Late 80s, yeah.
All right. And I heard that some of the main reasons that staff is recommending denial is, first of all, it's contrary to the general plan. And so kind of just, if you could spend just a minute explaining how that general plan fits in this area to make sure we understand your vision there. And then the loss of commercial in general, I imagine that's a tax revenue type comment, perhaps. Maybe there's more to that. Just take a minute on that, if you would.
Yeah, Commissioner Cavity. First of all, I would touch on your first question, which on the screen is the original. This is the shops at the islands. This was approved by the DR back in 07. You can see, shared access points, multiple retail, shop, office, and so forth, mostly retail. But you can see what was proposed back in 07 and approved. To the point of commercial land. This was just pulled today. You can see the screen here. I know it's kind of hard to read. Look over to the right, those bold columns. You can see that currently the town has around 8% of the town's land is commercial. I can tell you that looking at this same sheet back in March that they just pulled, it was 8.5%. So in 7 months, we've lost 0.5% of commercial land. Whether some of those things we supported, some of them we didn't. We take it on a case-by-case basis. We would agree, it hasn't developed in 25 years. We can see that, and it may not develop for another 5 or 10 years. We're not sure. We don't have those projections. We don't have that study done. But we believe that arterial intersection, gateway corner into the town, is an important piece to the town for commercial to remain commercial. In terms of goals and policies of the general plan, if you look at page 4 of your staff report, there's some goals and policies that I've outlined there that I feel or we felt are applicable to this project. Obviously, the applicant will probably provide goals and policies that they feel are applicable to the project, so I don't know how in depth we want to get into that. But we believe that this parcel was placed on the general plan as commercial for a reason, and it should remain as such.
And it has always been commercial, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Nathan.
Any further questions for staff? All right. Thank you, Nathan. That will invite up the applicant. If you can give your name and city of residence, that'd be great. Not Gilbert, though, right?
My office is at Val Vista and Baseline in Mesa, on the north side.
Close to Gilbert.
There we go. Chairman, Commission members, my name is Sean Lake, 1744 South Val Vista Drive in Mesa. here on behalf of the applicant property owner on this project. I appreciate a lot of the questions about this project, and I'll kind of go through and answer a lot of the questions that were raised this evening as well as from the study session. But what I wanted to do is get some perspective on this site and how we got here. This property was originally designated commercial in 1984 when the Islands development was going in. And since that time, they've been looking for a commercial center to go in. Now, let's put that into perspective, and I thought given the hour, I would bring some levity. When this property was searching for commercial, Dennis Barney was opening the carpet company. When this property was designated commercial, I was looking for a prom date. My partner had hair and was a young budding attorney. So it has been designated for quite a long time, and they have been looking for a commercial opportunity here for some time. And I think what's happened is what we've seen is the market has come and gone. It has left, and I'm going to provide you not only with my own opinion about data, but also some empirical data that you can look at as to why the market has come and gone. If you look at the shopping center to the north, you'll see that it's mostly vacant. I've had conversations with the property manager who's been working with that property owner. They're excited about additional rooftops because they want additional rooftops to help with the existing vacant commercial that's going on. If you look at the immediate north corner, that's largely a vacant center, the one that's anchored by Goodwill. If you look on the northwest corner, that where the CVS is, that shopping center has a lot of vacant shopping space as well. So the commercial, there's a lot of commercial built. It's just wanting more demand. The supply, there's plenty of supply, just not enough demand. So the request that we have before you this evening is to change the general plan from shopping center to residential R16 PAD. And the reason we put a PAD on that is not to ask for deviations, but actually to list excesses or buffers and setbacks and establish a plan. And so the development plan we've given you outlines buffers on how we'll buffer the car wash, and I can get into that later on. But that's the reason for the PAD. We're not asking for deviations. And again, we are requesting a change to the general plan from SC to residential 2 to 3.5. Later on, we'll follow a preliminary plat and also an open space plan. So a plat will come to this commission, open space plan, and product will go before the design review board. So this isn't the final bite at the apple, if you will, on this project. This is purely a land use discussion. It's a land use decision. What is a reasonable land use for this property owner at this site? The project that we are proposing is this is a development plan. It's a 44 homes on approximately it's 11.4 net, 13.3 gross acres. To put that into comparison, you'll see our lot sizes are roughly 65 by 100s. The lots directly to the south are 45 by 100. So we've tried to present a plan that's not controversial, that doesn't try to push the envelope, and is certainly larger lots than currently exist there on the south side today. One of the questions that was asked at the study session is, okay, what is going to develop in this area that will change the demographics, that will add more demand to meet the supply of existing commercial? And so we did do a study of evaluating how many residential lots are undeveloped and available for development in the area. So on a 2-mile radius, there are 8 residential lots. And when I say lots, I mean for a home. And so there's a potential for 8 additional homes on vacant lots that are available within a 2-mile radius of this site. So I think it's fair to say, based upon this type of analysis, that there's not going to be a whole lot of demand or a whole lot of homes that will be built in the area. That's just, the area is built out from a residential standpoint. Everything that's been designated and allowed for residential has been built. So there's not going to be a lot of more demand that will be added to the market. We've also done a study of existing retail buildings. This is built structures that are built ready for somebody to move in and do some tenant improvements. There is over 1 million square feet of vacant retail space within 2 miles of this site. That's a substantial amount. These are studies. It's easy to go on and find that. Again, this is empirical data. So with additional demand, then you can help to fill up some of that supply. And so we think this type of data shows that the market has said there's more than enough commercial there. In fact, there's already more than there needs to be built today. So why add more to an already glutted market of retail buildings? The staff also asked us to prepare some type of analysis of vacant land. Now, this is the vacant land within a 3-mile radius of non-residential land. And again, you can see there is vacant, large chunks of it we can kind of name and see, but it's industrial type properties and not something you would typically see rooftops going into. Now, at the inception of this project, we thought it would be important to work with the Homeowners Association. This is, I think, one of the oldest homeowners association in the town of Gilbert, very active homeowners association. So at the very inception, we went to the Homeowners Association and came up with what we felt was a good plan. And we received a letter of support from the Homeowners Association, as you can see, and pointed out in red, that the Homeowners Association said that it's their hope that our efforts in working with the town council and the zoning and P&Z, that the town will grant a change of zoning for this area from shops and retail to residential. The HOA thinks this is a good land use change. It's a reasonable use of the property. After the last planning or study session, we had another neighborhood meeting with the neighbors and had the support of the neighbors at that neighborhood meeting. So we have those neighbors who live directly to the south. We also went back and worked with the car wash owner, and you received the signed letter on the dais this evening agreeing to certain things that we would do to help mitigate the sound that's generated by his site for our homeowners so that he wouldn't have a concern. And based upon the things that we've agreed to do with this agreement, that he did remove his opposition and supports the project. Now let's discuss some of the things that we have incorporated into our development plan to help address the car wash concern. The first is we're establishing a no-build easement along this area, along this property. And so what we tried to do is go in and say, okay, if the homes were built first and the car wash went second, which is typically how you see it, what would the car wash owner have to have done as far as setbacks? And so we took that number and then built the setback into our property and then created a no-build easement over that area. So the effect is the same separation. Whether we went first or he went first, the separation maintains the same. Now granted, the property is on ours. We're building the buffer in on our own personal property as opposed to the car wash, but the effect is the same. And so what you have is a separation between residential and the commercial that meets that separation requirement. We're also building in an 8-foot sound wall. In your packet, you have a sound study that we had a sound engineer go out to the site and made recommendations to bring the noise levels within an acceptable standard that is below the ambient noise of the roadways in the adjacent areas. We've put in landscape buffers, and I think staff pointed out that the nearest lot on the east side would be about 77 feet and over 100 feet on the south side. So we've created the separation. One of the other issues that was brought up at the study session is it safe the way it accesses onto Island Drive? And we believe it is. It accesses and lines up to an existing driveway. It's important that we, in meeting with the town, that we have a neighborhood access from a neighborhood to a collector to an arterial. That's the way we should be doing it. There is a traffic signal at this location, so the traffic should be accommodated. And we feel that having it access onto Island Drive makes it a better part of the community. It integrates it more into the Islands area. And so we think based upon what we have presented to staff with the supply and demand data that we've provided, working with the surrounding property owners on a reasonable land use, we think what we're proposing is reasonable. And that's really the bottom line of what we're asking is this a reasonable land use? We think this is a reasonable land use for this property. And so based upon that, we would request that the Planning Commission support the general plan modification and also rezone it to an R16 PAD. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Lake. Questions for the applicant? Commissioner Fuller.
Sean, so that no-build easement, how are you documenting that? Is that going to be a note on the plat? Are you recording a separate declaration of easement between yourselves and the car wash, where the car wash is the beneficiary and you guys are the servient tenement? How are you doing that?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Fuller, we will be noting the no-build easement on the plat itself. And in addition, one of the agreements that we made with the car wash owner is we will be providing notice of the proximity to the car wash in a public report, and we will have a separate letter that is signed by the homeowners noting the proximity of the car wash so that they're aware of it. They're going to know because the car wash is there, but we're providing those 3 separate notices of the distance separation, and the plat will actually be the restrictive on that no-build area. Now, when I say no-build, I mean no homes. We can put open space and roads and infrastructure in that area, but there will be no homes in that area.
Yeah, and I guess what I'm trying to understand, Sean, is the notices you give to the homeowner are only effective to the initial homeowner you sell the house to. On a resale, they would not have notice of that because it's not a recorded document other than the plat. And so on the plat, are you calling out, and I know I'm jumping ahead of myself a little bit because we're not to the plat, but I guess it would have to be, you'd have to include something in the note section or something that calls out what that, I've never seen something like that done on a plat. I've seen it done as a separate private agreement between the parties. And then to the extent you want the town to be able to enforce that, they would, acknowledge it, or they'd be a third-party beneficiary or something like that. So,
Madam Chair, Commissioner Fuller, it will be on the plat, and then that area will be owned by the HOA. So it won't be transferred to future homeowners. It will be owned by that's open space area. That's a common area.
Right.
So I guess a follow-up question, if I can jump in.
Yeah.
So if for some, if this case ends up getting approved, and we're just specifically talking about this because you just brought it up, but if for some reason the zoning application was approved that permitted the change in zoning classification SF6 PAD, and you process a preliminary plat, and maybe something happens and between preliminary plat and final plat, and we have a new user that comes in and decides to build the SF6 out and doesn't include this easement on their plat. I mean, how do we protect the town and the residents from the agreement that you made?
Chairman, what we could do is incorporate the agreements, the conditions that we met with the car wash owner dealing with separation and the no-build area as a condition. We're happy. That's why we have a PAD. If we want to add that as a condition, we're certainly welcome to do that. Then any future, let's assume Mr. Klein, who's going to be developing this property, he decides, or he has a heart attack and somebody else comes in and takes it.
Let's hope that doesn't happen.
Heaven forbid.
No. It's a bad example, but
he wins the lottery and moves to Tahiti. Right.
So we're happy to add a condition that said that we'll work with staff on a no-build easement during the final plat stage.
I think that's fine.
Okay. Any further questions?
Preliminary plat stage and preliminary
Okay.
final.
Right.
To final, right.
Yep.
Commissioner Powell, sorry. I was going to call you Sipple. Sorry.
John, on page, this is sort of unrelated, but I'm curious, when I read through this narrative and some of the notes here, on page 6, it's titled School District Comments. It says staff has received a signed donation agreement from the proposed home builder, TK Builders, and you're representing TK Builders, right? It says received a signed donation agreement from the proposed home builder and the Chandler Unified School District with regard to the subject. What does that mean?
Extortion.
It means the property owner has agreed to voluntarily work with the school district on contributing per unit to the school district.
The keyword being voluntary.
The town.
It's typical.
Yeah, certain municipalities ask that you get.
Not municipalities, but yeah.
Yeah, they ask
School districts.
that you work, no, certain municipalities ask that you work with the school districts and get them on board, that they look at your project, and one of the ways that they.
So this was
they
the
get
only
happy
way
with your
that you
project
could get
is-
them on board was through this method?
No.
No.
Every home
No.
builder I've ever worked with in the town of Gilbert has reached the same agreement.
Yeah, and it's not just the town of Gilbert, it is.
It's valley-wide.
Avondale, it's every school.
Most
district
schools
around.
have a standard fee that they request of home builders as a contribution to the school for donations to help build up the school for capacity, but it's valley-wide and it's school district-wide.
If I can, and Phyllis, I'm sorry if I'm going off the reservation here, but, and that, I apologize for that last comment.
It wasn't bad until you said that.
School impact fees were struck down by the courts 15 years ago. School districts decided to work with developers on an individual basis on a voluntary contribution. And ever since then, all the home builders have voluntarily agreed to pay to the school district a contribution to help with that school area.
And the school districts have been nice enough to support.
From Coolidge to Eloy to
Okay. all right.
Timbuktu.
But
Okay.
that would have to
Can we
be-
bring it back to the what is in the purview of the town?
I think it is because it's in the staff report.
It is on the staff report. I
So
would
that's
like
the
an
purpose of the
Okay,
discussion.
Yep.
Still, I'm,
It's not really under the town's jurisdiction to dictate what the applicant does with the school district. It's just for information.
I understand. That's all I'm trying to do is gather information here. So one last question: that if you chose not to voluntarily contribute to the school, would you still receive the support of the school?
Well, I think that's probably reaching.
I
don't know
can
that we
tell you, Chairperson, Commissioner Member Powell, I can tell you we have met with the school district and they do have capacity in this area. So the capacity is not a question or a concern at all.
It was just an interesting item on here that I haven't ever seen before. Felt like it needed to be discussed.
Further questions for the applicant? No? All right, thank you, Mr. Lake. Okay, with that, we have one public comment card. And if there's anybody else here, which we're very limited in the crowd right now, but if anybody else is here and wishes to speak on this item, there are cards at the back of the room, if you could bring them up. But with that, we'll invite up Mr. Les Presmick, former council member, if you could give us your name and residence, city residence.
Madam Chair, Planning Commission members, my name is Les Presmick, and I am still a resident of the town of Gilbert. This is my neighborhood. So when you talk about long-term and short-term, I have lived just north of this property for 28 years. I have watched the entire area develop. I was actually surprised that there were 8 home building lots left within a 2-mile area because I'm not sure where they are. The vacant land that's up and down McQueen is all commercial or industrial. There's established commercial areas that are within a mile of this place that represent every department store and every grocery store that would ever come to this area. So let's set aside the idea that we will never get a grocery store on this corner. Abco, that shopping center on the northeast corner was built in the early 90s. And that was the highest grossing Abco shopping or grocery store in their entire chain for about 10 years until the Fry's was built at the corner of Cooper and Warner. And basically, because of that competition, Abco went out of business. We have a Safeway a mile south. We have a Target a mile to the west. Albertsons is 3 miles away. We're not going to see a grocery store here. Now, as I was going through the staff report, which in typical fashion was excellently produced, They make the comment, and Nathan mentioned it during his presentation, that other uses such as entertainment, congregate care facilities, churches, and schools could come to this corner or are allowed within the SC zoning. Churches and schools take it off the tax base. As nice as those uses might be, if they were to ever come, we lose all tax revenue. Entertainment uses, I'm not quite sure what that means, although it's contained within the zoning. Congregate care facilities. Now that's an interesting one. A mile to the north, there is a care facility just on the southeast corner of El Dorado Lakes, be the northwest corner of Guadalupe and McQueen. For those of you who've been on the Planning Commission long enough, there was one of these that was proposed down at Lindsay and Williamsfield. If you can picture the northeast corner, there's a Walgreens, there's shopping center, there's a storage facility, and tucked back in, a block away from Williamsfield and Lindsay, is this parcel that a congregate care facility was proposed for. The reason that it's not there is because the neighbors came out and said they didn't want it. They produced all the horror stories, most of which will never happen, and they killed that project. And that was a perfect place for it. The idea of putting a congregate care facility at this corner would be difficult at best. So, as much as I agree that this is a gateway commercial parcel, and as much as over my career of 16 years on that dais that I have tried to protect commercial properties and have done so against the likes of Mr. Lake and his senior partner Ralph Pugh and Paul Gilbert, one that I would point out that they tried to convince us would never develop is at the corner of Baseline and Cooper. We were told on several occasions that southwest corner would never develop because of the Walmart on the northeast corner. Today that is our Kohl's shopping center. So I understand the need for protecting these commercial corners, but at the same time, we need to realize that there's some commercial zone properties that have all the opportunities have bypassed them. As Scott Morrison said a few years ago when he asked for rezoning and downzoning of a parcel in Morrison Ranch, he said all the crazy money did not come to this parcel a few years ago. And so why would we ever expect it to develop commercially? And I would use that same argument tonight for this parcel. 6 years ago, there was a commercial plan proposed for this. And that was before the downturn in the recession and all the crazy money that was being spent and used for these kinds of developments did not come to this parcel. And I would submit to you, and I will submit this to the council when it comes before them, that this is a good use for this parcel. This parcel has sat vacant for almost 30 years, not 25. The islands was originally platted in 1984. That's almost 30 years ago. We have seen several different proposals for this parcel. I think it's time to recognize that just because we have some land that's hard zone commercial or SC, we really need to look at what this parcel will do. And I think this proposal is a good one for my neighborhood. There's plenty of commercial in the area, and we don't need to save this for the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Presmick? Now that you've walked away? No? I think we're good. You said it all, apparently. All right, with that, we'll bring it back to the applicant. Is there anything further you'd like to add, staff? All right, since there's nobody else here to speak on this item, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the dais for discussion and possible motion. Commissioner Fuller.
You know, I think on this, Chairman, we asked the applicant to do quite a few things on this. Anytime there's a down zoning, or anytime we're losing commercial shopping center type uses, we asked them to justify it, and that's what we did in this situation. I've met with the applicant before. We saw this at a study session, obviously, and it was, come show us why commercial or shopping center use does not make sense here. And I think that's what they've done. I just don't. I agree with Councilmember Presmick. I don't see where I don't see where the users, the demand is going to be there to justify this, keeping this a shopping center use. I thought Councilmember Presmick's listing of the various other uses that were identified in the staff report was also illustrative of what exactly is feasible there. A big box isn't going to happen, or we don't believe is going to happen in, is a congregate care facility or something else really going to go there. So I believe the applicant has proven to me why a residential, a change in the zoning and the general plan is justified in this case. I certainly understand staff's position. I would actually probably even be a little surprised if they took a different position on this. And I understand their position and their hesitancy to lose any type of tax base in the town. I feel different on this, and I share that as well. I feel a little different than on staff, where I just don't think, I think if we did not make this change, I think we'd be talking about this parcel when my youngest child is a planning commissioner in 30 years. So.
Poor kid.
For that reason, I would be in favor of. I will be supporting the general plan and zoning change.
Great. Further comments, Commissioner Cavany?
Yeah, first of all, both presentations are very compelling. Thank you. Well prepared and definitely some good research done. We talk about doing these projects on a case-by-case basis, and I think this is one of those that you definitely look at perhaps in a different light. I appreciate the concern with this being a gateway into Gilbert, but I don't know that Gilbert has made any special efforts to demarcate this in any other way as a gateway. So I think in the end we have to look at the specific conditions and. I think the time for this property as a commercial property has passed. It's lost its ground, and I think we do the best thing we can do now. I've dealt with a lot of these properties where the market conditions definitely argue for more time. We need more time to let this do its thing and get back to where it ought to be. But I don't think in this circumstance that the market's going to benefit this property any more in the future than for a commercial use than it already has. So I think I'm going to lean in the direction of supporting moving ahead and letting this thing get developed. So.
Great, thank you. Any further comments? Commissioner Powell?
Just a final statement. I'm in favor of allowing this to be rezoned as well, principally because private property is private property and should not be controlled beyond its highest and best use. And if the highest and best use can't be achieved, then it's not fair to the property owner to continue to restrict him from the value or the gaining the return on his property and using his property to his best interest. And so, again, I think it's always important that we keep those things in mind as well. Government serves a purpose, but not when it begins to infringe upon property rights.
Thank you. Further comments? Well, Vice Chairman Ayler?
Just quick note on it. I think in looking at the open 8 lots really shows that we're already built out in this area. I think it's understood that trying to get rooftops more in the area would be tough, and this would be a tough use as commercial as it's shown over the last 30 years of being empty. So I'd be in favor of the change.
Thank you. My limited 2 cents is I generally agree with all the commissioners here. And I would, however, want to somehow stipulate that, if agreeable to the applicant, that no-build easement be a stipulation as part of the zoning case so that it's held for any future uses in case there's a new plat that's brought forward, and just to protect the town a little bit if there's not going to be a recorded easement. Okay. So with that, do I have a proposed motion?
Ready for a motion?
I am. Chairman Fuller, or Commissioner Fuller?
Okay, we'll take a crack at this. I move that we recommend to the Town Council approval of GP 13-13 to change the land use classification approximately 13.3 acres of real property generally located at the southeast corner of McQueen Road and Warner Road from SC to residential 2.35 dwelling units per acre land use classification.
I second.
Any stipulations?
Well, the stipulation will be on the zoning case.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
sorry. Following. And a second by Commissioner Cavney?
That's fine, yes,
Oh,
that's fine.
who said it? Sorry.
Said it? I said it.
Commissioner Powell. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Okay. Then for the zoning one, for the following reasons, the development proposal conforms to the intent of the general plan and can be appropriately coordinated with existing and planned development of the surrounding areas, and all required public notices and meetings have been held. Planning Commission moves to recommend approval to the Town Council for Z 13-23, request to amend ordinance 429 and rezone approximately 13.3 acres of real property within the islands PAD and generally located at the southeast corner of McQueen Road and Warner Road from approximately 13.3 acres of shopping center with a PAD overlay zoning district to approximately 13.3 acres of SF6 with a planned area development overlay district subject to the following conditions. 1, the zoning exhibit and development plan shall be in substantial conformance with exhibits 3, 4, and 5. And 2, that the no-build easement delineated in the, is it in the staff report or was it in the letter?
You want to add the letter as an exhibit?
Yeah, it's, well, I don't know. The whole
I
letter.
don't have a private
Okay.
agreement there.
Here, let's see the letter. I can
what-
get this. All right.
What's the width of the easement?
It's 8 feet from what I remember.
30 feet wide?
35.
35 feet wide? I'm trying to read.
35.
Okay,
Oh,
backwards. 35 feet wide on the east and the south perimeter of the commercial corner? Okay.
Okay, well, with the stipulation.
This says that?
Yeah, all right, so let me see. So 35 feet east.
Along the east and southern boundary of the commercial property.
All right, east and southern boundary. All right. So with stipulation number 2, that the no-build, the 35-foot proposed no-build easement along the east and southern boundaries of the property be incorporated into the preliminary and final plats for the property.
I'll second, I'll second all that, every bit of it.
I don't know if you want to second every bit of it.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Fuller, a second by Commissioner Cavity. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. With that, we'll move on to the administrative items of the agenda. Agenda item number 19, which are the minutes, and Commissioner Bianchi isn't here. So has anybody else looked at the minutes in detail and have any comments?
Nope.
Proposed changes? Okay. With that, do I have a motion?
I move to approve the minutes.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Fuller, a second by Vice Chairman Ayler. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Moving on to communications, agenda item number 20 is a report from chairman and members of the commission on current events. I don't think I have any current events, but Bridget?
I just want to remind everybody, since we talked about it tonight, our special meeting on Wednesday, October 23rd at 6 p.m. It will be at the Southeast Regional Library, so don't come here, go there. And I also wanted to point out that Gilbert Digital is doing a really doing a really great job at getting the word out. I know I said it backwards. Getting the word out about all of the ways that you can access information about the town of Gilbert. So I have little cards to pass out to all of you. And since Councilmember Daniels isn't here, I'll mention that there's another Operation Welcome Home on Tuesday, October 22nd at 6 p.m. here in the chamber for a couple members of the military that the town is taking the time to welcome back.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, agenda item number 21, report from council liaison. Obviously, she's not here. Agenda item number 22, report from planning services manager on current events.
I really don't have anything for you this evening. We're busy, as you can see. Thank you for all your comments tonight and direction. So we'll see you in 3 weeks.
Any permits Do you know what the new home permits were?
Do you remember what is it? 115 this month so far.
115 this month so far, or last month?
No, it can't
For
be.
September?
We're October.
115 for last month. Thank you.
Wow, that's a record
I was
pace.
like, wow, 2 days?
1,000 permits
Yeah,
this month.
that's fabulous.
Thank you so much.
All right, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So
So moved. Thank you, everyone.